In this video, I'm going to be looking at Disney Lorcana. Hello AOS fans, Robin here, and in this video I'm going to be looking at the new trading card game, Disney Lorcana. This isn't particularly a game I thought of picking up. I'm kind of generally anti-blind booster trading card game type games where you try to build a deck and you've got to get X number of cards and you've got to track down the ones that are powerful to sort of work with the current meta. That's why I like Warhammer Underworlds, because you only have one version of a card in your deck, and there's no blind boosters. When you buy a box, you know exactly what you're getting inside it. I prefer that model. That said, I read a few reviews of Lorcana, and they all said that it was a really good game. It was really fun. It was accessible for children, and you could have fun with it without getting too deep into the meta. And the thing I really like about it is that it scales, so you can play almost as well, or just as well in fact, with 2 or 3. I haven't played with 4, but 3 of us can play. My 3 kids can play without sort of it's not working. So it's a really nice game. My son's really into Pokemon. He was interested in this. My other son sort of is very sort of game driven. So I wanted to kind of give us something that we could all play together and explore how the deck building works. We haven't got very far along our journey yet, and there's a very good reason for that. And that is Lorcana stuff is really hard to find at the moment. This is Ravensburger's first ever collectible card game, and it's the first ever Disney collectible card game, I believe, and I don't think they were prepared for the sheer volume of stock they were going to need, and frankly the sheer sense of entitlement and general over craziness of a lot of the player base, who just seem to think that they need to buy every single product they can possibly find in order to have fun with this game. And I'm here to say that definitely isn't the case. As you know, with a lot of our videos, we kind of tend to look at it from a family perspective, or try to, or certainly a casual gaming perspective. And you can have fun with just these 3 starter sets. This is actually the second lot of starter sets I've got to give us some extra deck building possibilities. You can still buy these, or you could at the time I bought them, which was about 2 days ago. They were in my local game, and they were in my local friendly local game store, which is where I got them from. And she's still got loads in there. So you can still get these, but you can't get the blind boosters. You can't get anything with boosters in. So there was like a trove pack, which was a slightly more a better value deal. You can't get that. I tried to order one of those online, and it failed miserably. So that is slightly unfortunate. I do have thoughts on that, which I'm not going to go into now. I might do a separate video about it if we make some more Lorcana stuff. This is the first chapter. It says on the box is the first chapter. The second chapter is promised, and a reprint of the first chapter is promised too. I think the second chapter is going to actually be out before the reprints of the first chapter cards, but they are coming, so there's no need, people out there, to pay ridiculous amounts of money either to scalp other people or to be scalped. There's just no need. Just be patient, Grasshopper, be patient. And that really is quite often comes down to a lot of games. Just patience. When there's shortage of stock, just be patient. Companies want to take your money. They probably in most cases will print more stuff so that you can get it and they can have your money, which is after all the reason they exist. But enough of that for now. This is more of an unboxing. So I'm just going to unbox one of these and we'll have a look at it. And it's 8+. That's the first thing you notice. It's 8+. It's quite low for a collectible card game, and you do have to bear that in mind when playing it. It is more simple than some other collectible card games. I don't mind that. My son, he plays a lot of Pokemon. Pokemon does my head in eventually with just the sheer combos and things that you can have going on, and I don't find it a very fun gaming experience. Certainly the level he plays. This so far we've really enjoyed, and the way the game works is you play an Illumineer and you wield this sort of magical ink, and you summon versions of Disney characters that they're called glimmers, and you're basically trying to explore or find lore to win the game, and then when you've got 20 lore points, then you become the winner. And that's the simple as that. So that's the kind of conceit of the game. You're trying to collect lore in order to win, in order to become the greatest Illumineer, I guess, that's around at that time. Cards all have, like most of these games, the cards all have different flavours, or in this case, different types of ink. There are 6 types of ink, and they're represented in the 3 starter boxes. So in the boxes we have Amber and Amethyst, Sapphire and Steel, shout out to the old ITV TV programme, and Ruby and Emerald. So they're represented across the 3 boxes. So there are 6 ink types, and you can make decks of up to 2 of them. So you can only pick 2 of them. You can make soul ink decks, which I obviously haven't done because I haven't got enough cards. But you can't have more than 2. You can mix and match them just because they come in these varieties doesn't mean that you have to stick with those. You can mix and match them however you like. And again, because of sort of lack of cards, because we're just learning, we haven't done that yet either. But I'm looking forward to building on our experiences, especially now that I've got these extra cards. So we've got more cards that we can play with. Pete and I are going to have a little go with this with the straight out of the box decks before we start doing any deck building. And hopefully you'll see that soon on the channel. Boxes retail at 18 UK pounds. I'm not sure what they are internationally, but they're 18 UK pounds. That's how much I bought these for from my local game store. And let's have a little look inside, shall we? So in here you get a deck of cards. Now, a deck of cards is 60 cards, so that's the minimum number. You can have more, and I have seen online in the forums that people are playing with more, which is unusual for me. I'm not a massive trading card game player, so perhaps it's not unusual, but certainly in Warhammer Underworlds, I do feel like you always want to have the minimum number of cards. There are some deck archetypes which encourage people to your opponents to sort of deck out, run out of cards, and you need more cards for that kind of thing. But 60 is the minimum, that's the least you can have. So let's have a little look inside, shall we? So first up, the cards come with this very nice sort of paper wrapping, which I really like. No horrible foil that's difficult to take off and bad for the environment. Nice paper wrap, that's really good. Then you get, and I think this is a really nice touch, you do get a booster that flies across the room. You do get a booster, which is really nice. So you can immediately got a few deck building options with your decks. I might open those on camera separately, and we can have a look at those. See what I get. You get the rules, that's pretty comprehensive. I think there's a more comprehensive online rule set for the people who really want to dig into the sort of depths and the mechanics. We haven't needed to do that yet, particularly. There's a couple of card interactions haven't quite followed, but we just kind of ruled them ourselves. And then, somewhat disappointingly, but I can kind of see why, because they're trying to keep the price down. You get these counters. These counters are pretty rubbish. They're kind of very thin card. They don't push out terribly well. As you heard, might have heard that tear there. They don't push out very well. They're not great. We've been using them, but I'd probably, if I was going to play seriously for any length of time, I'd probably find a better alternative. There's loads of games with different. I've got different alternatives, but alternatively you probably find some online. Or to be honest, 1p's and 2p's would probably be better. And then you get this really quite poor play mat as well, which I don't really understand what it's meant to do. So that I think has gone straight in the bin, and we've just played on the table. It's as easy, but it does at least tell you where you think should go, and it's got a lore tracker, but the lore tracker is rubbish. There is a ring in here to put over the lore tracker, but as soon as you knock it, that's it done. It's much better. On the app, there's a Lorcana app, of course, which you can track your cards that you own, but it also helps you. It's got a lore tracker, so you can do 1 or 2 player games, and if you want to do multiplayer games, you kind of need the app on each phone. Or we did it once because we didn't have one phone handy. We did it with somebody kept a tally chart with a pen and paper. Very exciting. So that's a bit rubbish. So that's kind of, I can see why it's in there, and I can see why it's cheap. So they want to keep the price down, but a nicer alternative would be nicer. Bearing in mind that these retail at £5 each. So if you getting this to £18, you're getting £13 for this whole deck of 60 cards. I'll quickly unravel that. So there you go, a deck of cards. Now you'll see there are lots of articles online about how to play and videos and things. So I won't cover this in a massive amount of depth. The cards cover a whole slew of Disney animated films, from vintage Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse right up to got Moana and Ariel here. And Hades, and they're not they're all kind of themed across the inks. There's no particular one film is one ink or whatever. They're all the films across all the inks, and characters can appear as multiple incarnations across inks as well. When you're building a deck, you can only have 4 of any particular card, but you can have multiple versions of the same character if they've got different kind of keywords under them. So we've got, for example, here, I'm going to find it. Well, Mickey Mouse is a classic one because there's like a Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, but you've also got Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer. Like all collectible card games, there's different art things. So you've got different rarities. I haven't written down the rarities, but you've got different rarities common, uncommon, rare, and then they go right up to enchanted. I haven't got any enchanted cards. They're quite hard to find. There's not very many of those at all. I believe that the kind of rarity is nothing particularly to do with the gameplay, if that makes sense. So none of the rare cards are particularly good, and the super rare ones, the ones that are really hard to find, are just different art versions of the same card. So there shouldn't be any kind of expensive chasing rare cards to attach yourself to the local meta. I remember that there is actually a rarity key in the rules. So you've got common, uncommon, rare, super rare, and legendary. I don't have any legendary cards. So the rarity in the pack is specified. You get 12 booster cards. You've got 1 foil, which can be any rarity, 2 rarities of 2 rares or higher rarity, 3 uncommons and 6 commons. So it's pretty standard, but they are you do get what you're looking for in a deck, so to speak, or you know what the odds are of getting a particular rarity is. The deck list is down the side here, and this does contain some uncommons, and it does contain some foils and things as well. But you can look up online very easily what's in the deck. I've only just noticed that that's written down there. I think I threw the boxes away before we'd even noticed that. So that kind of is it. A quick overview of the gameplay. I'm not going to go into it in depth. Like I say, Pete and I will probably play a game. You have to... so the way the game works is you're trying to get to this 20 lore, and to do that you play different types of card. Most of the cards are characters, so we've got like Ariel here, and we've got Moana. And the way you play your cards is you need to have ink, because you're an Illuminee, you're basically drawing what you play. You need to have ink, and each card has an ink value. So if we look at Hi here, he has an ink value of 1. So you have to have 1 ink to play him. Well, how do you get ink? Well, this is kind of an intriguing aspect of the game. One of the things I like about it, you start off with your 7 cards, and the first thing you can do, you can do this once per turn. You can put a card face down and basically use it as ink instead of using it as whatever it is. So once a card has gone down as ink, it goes face down in your player area, and then you basically can't really use it again. It is ink. It is literally the stuff with which you will use to create your new playable cards. And then so you can play a card. So if you've got 1 ink down, you can play a card out of your hand if it's worth 1. Next turn you might put another card down, 2, and then you can play cards that are obviously worth 1 or 2, or even 2 cards that are worth 1. And so on and so forth. Of course, every time we do this, you're depleting your hand. You draw 1 each turn. So, standard thing is, by the time you've kind of played down 4, you should be starting to run out of cards. You've put down 4 ink and 4 cards. So there's quite an interesting tussle there between wanting to get down ink so you can play your powerful cards versus actually running out of cards altogether. And that's something you need to consider when you do build your decks, although, like I say, we haven't really done that yet. But that's one of the interesting aspects of the game that I really like. I should say that not every single card can go down as ink. Most of them can. They have a little gold symbol at the top here. And if they haven't got that gold round there, so if they haven't got the gold round the top here, like this card here is 7, which is quite a powerful card, but it hasn't got the gold, you can't use that as ink. And that is can be a little counterintuitive. It's not as obvious as I would like. Sometimes I think, even without trying to cheat, you could accidentally put a card in there that you can't use for ink just because you're in the heat of the moment. You're like, oh, I don't want to play that, but I do want to play this, and you wouldn't notice. So that's something to watch out for. But anyway, once you've got a pile of ink and some cards down, each of your characters has various characteristics. But probably the key thing down here is this is the amount of lore they quest to. Again, I question the design a little bit there. I feel like that should be more prominent. It's more important. It's a very important stat that is. So yeah, that is when you can quest. So it's like a classic Magic the Gathering style thing. You quest, you turn it on its side and exert it, and you quest for 2 lore. Now, a couple of things. When you first play a card, it enters the game wet, and you then can't use it that turn whilst it's wet. So it can't use any of its abilities, and it can't quest. Once you've quested and you've exhausted it, it stays exhausted until your next turn, and it's at that point that your opponent can interact with your card. So you can't, while it's just ready, it can be targeted by a few card effects, but mostly it can't be targeted. So it's kind of safe. But as soon as you quest with it, it's then not up for grabs, but it can then be attacked, or it's not called attack because it's a Disney game. It can be challenged, and if it loses the challenge, it gets banished. How does it lose the challenge? Well, if you look here, you have a couple of stats there. So that's 2 kind of strength and 5 defence, and it's basically just a straight up match off. So let's put Cinderella to one side for a moment. Let's imagine that you've got Hades here, and you've put Hades down in the previous turn. So on this turn, you're going to quest with him. You quest for 1. So you've got gained 1 lore. It's not great. You don't always want to quest with 1 lore character. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you just want to stay in contention. You need to. But let's imagine that we've played Hades and he's quested for 1 lore. He's now exhausted. He is now vulnerable. Now let's imagine your opponent, it's now their turn. They have got a dry Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer to play. He is 3/4. So he thinks, well, I could quest for 2, but actually I'm gonna challenge Hades. So he challenges Hades. He's got a strength of 3, and poor old Hades has got a defence of 2. So Hades would die because his defence is only 2. Mickey Mouse, however, has got a strength of 3. It is an opposed fight, so Hades still does 3 damage against Mickey Mouse's defence of 4. So Hades would be banished into one player's discard pile. Mickey Mouse would be left on a 3/1. He'd be left with 1 life point left, and he would still live to fight another day, but he'd now be exhausted, so he couldn't do anything else. So he can't quest as well. There are ways to unexhaust things, but you can't exert it. I think they use rather than exhaust, but there are ways to unexhaust things. And I've just realised. So most of the way through that video, I've just discovered that I didn't put the mic on, so the sound has suddenly, presumably, got much better for you guys, for which I can only apologise. I'm not going to go and record it all again. I just can't face it. So there you go. So Mickey Mouse would be just about alive. Hades would be banished to the discard pile. If somebody wanted to, then because you've got Mickey Mouse exerted, if somebody on the next turn had another character, they could just fairly easily finish him off, and that would be the end of Mickey Mouse. Alternatively, they don't. He stays on one wound, and then you can, or 1 damage left, and then next turn you can exert him to quest or whatever it is you want to do. So that's how the game works. It's pretty simple and really quite good fun. Cards cost between 1 and about 6 or 7 ink. Some of them, they do are ones that go up to 8 and 9. They're rarer. So you've got to think about that balance of getting your ink down and being able to play the cards that you want. There are 3 types of cards. You've got your characters, who I've just talked about. You've got items. Items kind of stick around, so you can play it and you can use it on multiple turns. And then there are songs, which are like your instant plays. And I love the fact they're called songs. I mean, there's very few things that are more Disney than songs. And they've got the song titles from the films as well, which is great. It's going to be particularly good for Pete and I for bursting into song like we like to do. We've actually got a proper excuse to burst into song. So if you want to see the Peter, Andre, Jordan kind of mash up a whole new world, then do tune into our videos. The starter decks sort of break down into archetypes. Amber and Amethyst is kind of low level cards. I think you can play them quite quickly, and you can keep getting lots of creatures out to quest and what have you. The suggestion on the internet is that that's the easiest one to play if you've never played one of these games before. Sapphire and Steel, it's got some of the big cards in it, the big hitters, but you need to get the ink together to produce those, so there's some cards in there to help you with the ink generation. Emerald and Ruby, which apparently is the hardest one to play if you've never played a game before, a collectible card game before, is Emerald and Ruby, and that is more control-y. So this has got things about it. It's one of them. I think it's one of the only decks that can actually take away lore from your opponent and can stop people questing, or force them to attack you rather than quest, or not challenge you rather than quest. So that's how the archetypes break down. So I've only just got good sound back, but I'm actually going to finish there. This game is really quite good fun. I've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed playing it with the kids, and they've enjoyed it too, which is the main thing. Like I say, it's quite difficult to get hold of. If you can get hold of a starter set, though, you will get a couple of boosters to boost yourself with, and it is fun. I do promise you that it is fun, even with just starter sets. And I say, we haven't even started mixing and matching the different archetypes or the different inky types to see how they play in different ways. That's all in the future. Do let us know in the comments below if you want to see more Lorcana content. I know I tend to get very excited about the next best thing, and I know I started off on a Shatterpoint journey, but we will have some Shatterpoint for you soon. And I am still enjoying that. That's kind of hitting my tabletop scratch, and this is just hitting just a fun family game scratch at the moment. Itch, scratch, whatever. The Itchy and Scratchy Show, no, they're not in this game. But we will see you soon, somewhere on the Ages of Sigmar, whether we're playing Lorcana, Underworld, or something Star Wars related. yeah, we'll see you soon. Like I say, let us know if you want to see more Lorcana. Let us know if you've played it. Let us know what you like to play, what cards are good. Let us know if you've been caught up in the Ferrari around card availability and what you think of that. Just comment below and say hello. We'll see you soon. Bye.